Hi everyone, I'm Rohit Baines, and it's been just over a month since our last Q&A session with Pete Wild. Pete, how are you doing?
I'm good, thanks, mate. Yourself?
Yeah, good, thank you. Good. You ready to get grilled with some more questions?
Yeah, let's go for it. Let's go for it, mate.
Yeah, obviously you'll be pleased to know they're a bit more professional this time around. There's none about chocolate biscuits or anything anything like that. So
we might have to create our own at the end, then, mate.
Yeah. I think there's one about a cuppa and the best cuppa at grounds, but obviously,
okay.
Yeah, we'll get around to that. So obviously, just have it on your mind for that one. And So we'll start with last time out. Against Torquay United, you must have been really pleased with the result. But just going into that game, Pete, did you feel like we'd be sort of against it, or a bit sort of the underdogs with Torquay being top of the table and the injuries we've had and sort of the 4 substitutes and just everything that sort of coincided with it? Did you feel like we were underdogs going into that game?
Yeah, it was a tough game, like you say. We got 8 out injured, most of which would affect the starting 11 if they were fit. So it's a tough ask, and obviously the turnaround from getting home from Barnet probably about 2:30 Wednesday morning, and then trying to then start to prepare for Torquay. There was a lot of things that we wanted to do better, so that we needed to try and review Barnet and learn from Barnet. And then we needed to make sure that we're at our best for Torquay. And one of the big things that we saw from watching Torquay and like doing our homework on Torquay was that the tighter we were between the lines, the harder we can make it. And other teams had done that and forced them long, and that didn't suit Torquay. So they were things that we were trying to get across, and saw this siege mentality of, listen, we can go there. All this stuff's not going for us at the moment, but we can go there and give a good account of ourselves. There's nothing stopping us. And look, if we do X, Y, and Z, that'll stop Torquay, and that'll give us a really good chance. And with the pace in our team, look, if we can use our pace, that's to our advantage. So we tried to frame it in a way that, listen, here's the plan. Forget what's happened or what we've got against us. Let's go there and give the best account of ourselves on the television, because let's be honest, if lads go and give the best account of themselves on the television, they put themselves in the shop window. So they've got everything to gain from playing well on the telly. So that we sort of try to frame it up like that. And if you look at it, the only 2 people over 30 in the whole squad were Jake and Danny. And look at the youth in the squad and some of the valuable assets that were on the pitch on the night. I would be excited as a Halifax fan to say, look at some of these young lads that are coming through and the future of this football club, if we can get them nailed down to decent contracts.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously you spoke about BT Sports there as well, and the game being live on TV. What's the sort of differences for you sort of in the dressing room and sort of as a manager when a game's live on TV? Is it sort of different to just a normal 3 p.m. kickoff kind of thing, where it's obviously not as many cameras out kind of thing?
The subtleties, because anybody who tells you they don't behave differently on a telly's lying. Well, they've just got to behave in the way that we'd normally behave, but know that they've got more to gain from doing well on the telly. I've worked with players in the past that have only played well on the telly and they've never played well any other game. So it's like you say, there's little subtleties. It's within their interest to do well. Obviously, there's more cameras around, there's more people around, there's more people fussing in and around the dugout areas and the changing room areas. So they've got that to contend with. But like you say, that being on the telly, really, it's a great platform for them. And like you say, if they can do well on that, it can propel a player's career.
Yeah, most definitely. And in the game itself, obviously, we went 1-0 up, and eventually it went to 2-1 to Torquay. That was with 20 minutes to go. So what were you thinking when Torquay pulled it to 2-1, obviously with their 2 penalties?
Well, I mean, for our first goal, the funny thing is we wanted to be solid for 60 minutes, and then after 60 minutes, then let's go have a go. Jeff, for that first goal, should be nowhere near where he is when he's crossing the ball. The instruction to the fullbacks was to stay behind their wingers for the first 60 minutes. So when he's in basically in the bottom right channel, he's no right to be there within the game plan. But fair play, he gets the ball and we score a goal. And listen, that's where your game plan's got to have a bit of flexibility, and you've got to allow them to express themselves when they see fit and when they see the opportunities to hurt the opposition. So I thought obviously the first penalty, we got ourselves ahead. The first penalty is definitely a penalty for them, so fair play. We're going at half time, really in the game. And we come out second half, and I thought we were in the ascendancy, and I thought until they let a pen, there's only one team going to score, and we were fully on top and really pushing for that second goal. So to get the second goal, which I didn't think was a pen, and I still don't think it's a pen now, to get hurt, that just really took the momentum out of us. But what really pleased me was the character to go again and just keep going and going and going, knowing that we had the league leaders on the ropes and keep pushing to try and get that equaliser. And when we got it, I thought fully deserved. A really good move for the second goal, really good football. And to finish it off as well was fantastic. And then you've got a decision to make. Do you not get beat?
Yeah.
Or do you go try and get... So there was a cautiousness about us that I didn't want us to get beat, but I could see there was another goal in it.
Yeah.
So to try and keep pushing for that goal, and full credit to Jeff. I mean, the ups and downs of his complete day. And being an Everton fan as well, when he come off the pitch, and the first thing he's asked the BT bloke is, what's the Everton score? Nothing else. That how did me go over it? What's the Everton score?
Yeah.
I'm really pleased for him because what a top lad he is. What a top lad.
What was it like in the dressing room when obviously you got in, and especially for Jeff, obviously sort of being I won't say at fault for 2 penalties, but obviously being involved in Torquay's getting 2 penalties, then scoring the winner, and obviously his side winning the Merseyside derby as well. Was it quite eventful in the changing room for Jeff?
Jeff took about 10 minutes to come back in because he got called for BT, and all the lads are going, how's he got man of match? He's give 2 pens away.
Yeah.
And he hadn't. They were just talking to him about the winning goal.
Yeah.
But all the lads were hammering him, saying, how can he get man of the match? As I could say, 95% of football is horrible, turgid, not the greatest thing to be involved in because it's just a grind. And we get involved in football for days like that, where that buzz in the change room after that buzz of the winning goal. You can imagine what the coach was like on the way home, that 6-hour drive home. It was great, and they're the bits that keep sucking you back in, and they're the bits that you live for in football, are them little moments where it actually goes your way.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously we've just mentioned Everton as well, and we signed former Everton Academy goalkeeper Chris Renshaw. See, what do you sort of know about Chris in the past? Did you work with him at Oldham, or did you work with him at Oldham? Yeah, so obviously...
Go on, mate. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, I was just saying if you could sort of just let us in the know about Chris and just little things about him, if you could do.
Well, I know Chris since he was a 13-year-old at Oldham. So moving through the academy, Chris has been an excellent lad. One thing I love about Chris is Chris has made himself a professional footballer. He's worked so hard to make himself better. He's worked so hard to develop his game and elements of his game that when he first came to the academy and through the academy weren't great, and he's made himself better. And he was then in the youth team, so I worked with him in the youth team at Oldham, and again continued to make himself better. So come the day he was get offered a pro contract, he was then sold to Everton for big money, and he deserved all them accolades because of how hard he worked. And we've kept in touch. He's been playing for Witton. Obviously, Witton's season has been curtailed. And we've kept in touch, and then there was an opening with Harrison getting injured, and it's a no-brainer to bring him in because I think he's a high-quality keeper who's got real potential in the game, and I'm really pleased that we can be bringing in the type of calibre that Chris brings to us.
Yeah, I think that sort of explains it well as well, because I think a lot of fans were sort of asking on social media why we didn't sort of just, sort of bring up an academy goalkeeper. But like you say, would you say Chris coming in is sort of maybe even fighting with Sam for the number 1 spot?
Yeah,
sort of good competition. Yeah,
good competition for Sam. He's an excellent keeper. We need to be aware of good young players coming through. If we're going to build a structure at this football club, we need to be aware of good young players coming through, and that class Chris is one of them. But in terms of why would you not move a youth team player, I think it's quite interesting that we answer this.
Yeah.
That in training, all clubs need 2 good goalkeepers for training, for integrity of training, for the purpose of training, and most clubs will have 3. So there's your opportunity to bring a youth teamer up if you're going to have 3 goalkeepers around training every day. But it's important that you have 2 quality goalkeepers for the integrity of training, because you need the best players in the best positions. So that's massively why we did it, because we need to make sure that every session that we deliver has that integrity. The second thing is if why not put a youth team player on the bench? Well, it's like going to work and taking all your tools to work, and the day you need that one tool, you haven't got it in your box. Yeah. So all right, we might not use him often, but we need that person for that day. We do need them. So you might need that tool once a year, and if you ain't got it in the box, you can't use it. Yeah. So you need to have the best players at your disposal for any given time. And when players are fit, you'll notice I'll try and cover every position on the pitch as best I can with 5 subs to cover every eventuality. And if I didn't do that, I wouldn't be doing my job properly. So I've got to make sure that I have players for every position of the right quality for when they're called upon. So yeah. I think it's interesting. It's worth explaining, and hopefully that explains why we do what we do.
Yeah, I think that's been explained really well. I think obviously a few fans were a bit curious about it, but I think you've just hit the nail on the head there, aren't you? And a few fans have been asking over recent weeks about Kian Spence as well, and about him returning from injury. But a few fans want to know if players like Kian and a couple of the other younger lads will get a few games in from now till the end of the season.
Well, you've got Kian, you've got Jay Ben, who I think are 2 excellent young players. I mean, Jay's been on the bench recently, done in training, done really well coming back from an injury. Kian joined in full training yesterday for the first time. He will play some minutes against Huddersfield on Friday, but I think in them 2 especially, they're probably the youngest of the pack, and they've got so much potential. I would like to say that they will get the chance before the end of the season, but it's the $1 million question, isn't it?
Yeah,
exactly. I prepare for Hartlepool, and I'll tell you who we need for Hartlepool, then I'll prepare for Wealdstone, etc., etc. So yes, is the answer. We'd like to see them play, but will they play is obviously the $1 million question as we go through the season. But 2 really, really good young players who the fans should be really excited about in wanting to see. And the way that Kian's come back from his operation, the kid's absolutely flying, and has got a really good future as Jay Ben in the club. And you wouldn't know in training that they were the 2 youngest boys.
Yeah, and just secondly on that, Gaffer, obviously the flip side of that question with injuries, and a lot of fans have been asking about Ruben Noble-Lazarus injury-wise, and what's the latest with Ruben getting back in?
So I mean, it's been a frustrating season for both parties, for me and for Ruben. Obviously, when he came in, we had him in last season for 3 months around making sure he was fit and ready to go before we entered into a contract with him. He also picked up the injury against Boston in pre-season on his knee. And he's made a recovery probably 3-4 times from that, and then had a little setback. And it's frustrating because Ruben's trying to get to grips with pain, playing through pain. And that's not an easy situation to deal with. Ruben knows that, for want of a better phrase, his career is in jeopardy if he can't get back on the pitch. And I'm not saying anything out of turn there. And he's desperate to get back on the pitch. And one thing that I like about him is that he's desperate to play. He's desperate to want to play and make an influence. And by the way, if we can get him on the pitch, what a player. What a player. So his latest setbacks frustrating for both parties, and we're hoping that come a week on Monday, the 8th, he'll be back out training with us, and that'll be him for the running. But I like his drive. I think behind the scenes he's driving, he's determined to come back, which I love about him and shows the character of him. And from my side of things, if I can get him on the pitch, like I say, what a player. Yeah, so hopefully we're getting to the end now, and hopefully we'll see him out on the pitch soon.
Yeah, and just sort of sticking with the injuries, we've had a couple of questions about getting a couple of sort of maybe short-term or long-term replacements for some injuries. from players in the National League North and South now, they've been null and voided. Is that something you're looking to do, Gaffer?
It's something we'd like to do. I mean, finances will dictate that. As I've been very honest in the past, well, we have a very small budget here, and our budget has to be used wisely. With the fact that we ain't going to see a fan through the door this season, and sponsorship and etc., and grants now not being there, our money's very much on a tether, and I prepared the budget in a way that to make sure that we could have a little boost at the end of the season. But with finances being extremely tight, it'll be down to the chairman now whether we can add to the squad. I had a discussion with him last night regarding it, and we decided that hopefully we'd like to do something, but money would dictate over the sort of the next 7 to 10 days whether we do that or not. But things are tight, things are very tight, and we need to be pragmatic if we are going to bring anybody in. Don't get me wrong, the phone's been like the bat phone with people trying to move me players in, but we have to deal with what we've got dealt, and the things we've been dealt. The money's tighter than tight. Yeah.
And have you got just maybe a little injury update on certain players, if you can, Pete?
So if we go with the 8 that missed out against Torquay, Jean Belleroom's now back to full health and was back in work yesterday. Woodsy trained yesterday after his dead leg that he picked up against Barnet, so that's 2 back in. Nathan Clark joined in full training yesterday and will take some part in the Huddersfield game on Friday, which is great to see. And we now need to see how his eye reacts to full training and heading the ball, etc., etc. And providing that's okay, we can ramp his last part of his rehab up and have him available. And like I said, Kean Spence joined in full training yesterday and will be available. And hopefully he comes through unscathed for 20 odd minutes on Friday. We can start to ramp his minutes up and get him back in around. So then that leaves you with the 4 sort of longer term injuries. We just spoke about Ruben. We hope he'll be back a week on Monday. Harrison Davidson-Hale had his finger operated on last Wednesday, so he'll be out for up to 6 weeks. But when he gets his hard cast off, we'll know more in that situation. Luke Summerfield started light jogging yesterday, so he's back out on the grass, which is great to see. And he's providing he gets through this week. He's running fine. He might be back a little bit earlier than expected, but the physio's quick to tell me that he needs to react well to the running before we can start coming out and saying, listen, he's ahead of schedule. And then Matt Stenson's obviously had his operation now and had his first consultation on Monday, and he's 2 weeks ahead of schedule. So that's a great boost for Matt and a great boost for everybody that his first sort of touch point, he's 2 weeks ahead. So we're all really pleased for Matt, because it's a terrible time for him in terms of trying to get himself back to full fitness. So hopefully that's everybody, mate, and that gives you a rest of where we are.
Yeah, that's brilliant, Pete. And just sort of going away from on the pitch and just focusing off it. And obviously the Prime Minister Boris Johnson gave obviously his plan out of lockdown and recently. And one thing he mentioned was on the 17th of March is when I think fans are allowed back in grounds. But obviously we've got one home game after that date, and that's on the 29th of March. Last game of the season against Chesterfield. There's a possible storyline with that, because we could go into that game with fans and potentially it could be like a playoff crunch match between us and Chesterfield, who could get that playoff.
Pressure, eh?
Yeah. What are your sort of thoughts on that sort of potential storyline? Do you think might be one that's sort of written in the stars?
It's a long way ahead, and yes, Utopia would say that would be fantastic. But to have fans back in the ground would be great, and sort of the last sort of hurrah for the season would be fantastic. I don't know, but I presume there'll be lots of hurdles to jump over to make that happen. Not just from the club side, but with it being a council-owned facility, the ground. Yeah. I would presume there will be hurdles with that approach, but hopefully, that'd be fantastic to see the season out with fans in the ground. And if that is a possibility, then I'm all for that, and that would be great. And then even better if it's a game of such importance as well, would be fantastic.
Definitely. Yeah, and obviously, last time we did sort of mention about sort of lockdown, coronavirus, and things like that, and the pandemic. Obviously, we can kind of see the sort of light at the end of the tunnel now. For you, Pete, just personally, what did you make of what Boris Johnson had to say recently?
Relief, a lot of relief. It's been a lot of tough times for everybody, and it's been a difficult year, and the frustrations that go like 2 steps forward, 3 steps back at times. And so I'm relieved that the vaccines are being rolled out. I'm relieved that hopefully a normality will resume, and everybody can get back to living their lives in whichever way they see fit. I'll be happy to get my house back during the day on my own. My wife goes back to work and my son goes back to work. My wife's out to me, so I'm just hammering everything.
Yeah.
I won't tell you what she just said to me. But no, in all seriousness, I'm relieved that the world's getting back to normal, and hopefully everybody stays safe and well, and people's mental health goes back to a level which is hopefully better than it currently is, and hopefully we can have a really good summer with your families, and maybe a holiday or two.
Yeah, and sort of looking ahead to next season, do you feel like we will sort of have fans in sort of every week, sort of back to normal kind of thing? Is that something you're thinking will happen by then?
Yeah, I'd like to think so. I don't see any reason why that wouldn't happen now when football becomes back all about the fans again, and football becomes about the entertainment industry and providing a service for people to be entertained. And I'm all for that, and I'm hoping that's the case come out of August and the new season, that football is football again. Yeah,
brilliant. And to be fair, that moves us nicely on to the fans' questions. So stop speaking about it. Yeah, no. So we'll say first and foremost, thank you to the fans for sending those in. And so, Gaffer, I've picked out a variety of questions here, and there
have, mate.
I have. There were some that we've sort of already gone over, so I'll skip over them. Okay. But it's fair saying skip. There's one, and it's from someone called Ronnie on Twitter, and he asked who invented the skip. But the problem with that question for me was I didn't know if he meant skipping rope, skip as in the motion, skip as in crisp, skip as in like what you put your rubbish in, one of them, or skip as in like move something on. So if Ronnie's watching this, if he wants to tweet us again, or if he can tweet me, which skip he means, and I'll ask him this question again. Yeah. So if he wants to put,
I've got a clue with any of them.
Yeah. But I think what we'll do is if Ronnie wants to just tweet me at @Rowit_Baines, and then I'll Google the answer, and then next time we do this again, I'll just give you the answer. And so I'll do that, and then so that's Ronnie's question sorted. But
thanks, Ronnie.
Yeah, I'll move on to the other ones. So
is that the toughest one, mate?
Yeah, to be honest, I was looking at it last night. I was there just writing it down. I'm like, what skip? But I didn't understand what skippy meant. So I was trying to work that one out last night. But the other ones are quite nice, a bit more straightforward. So we'll start with Positively Shaymen on Twitter asks, with the appalling luck with injuries, do you think the Shay is cursed?
Well, I think with injuries this season, I think every club's seen this, and you talk to every manager, because of this fixture schedule, because of some players not playing from March until October and then a small pre-season, it was inevitable that we were going to have this situation of injuries and players picking up injuries. The schedule would never, in any normal, if you spoke to any sports scientist, they would absolutely hide under a table if we told them the schedule of the games that we've played this season, and then told them that there would only be a 5-week lead into that season. So it's been brutal, and we've had to fight our way through it. We all know if we could get our best 11 on the pitch every week, then things may be different. But every club up and down the country could say the same. So is the Shay curse? I don't know enough about the Shay to say if it is. Having been an Oldham fan, when we used to have a centre forward, we used to call it the striker's graveyard, because every striker we ever got injured, or unbelievably turned into not the greatest striker we ever signed.
Yeah.
So I think every club would suggest that their ground is cursed, but I think that's probably one that definitely is why we've picked up so many injuries this season, which hopefully if we get back to a proper scheduled season, it wouldn't happen so much, because the amount of work that Adam and Aaron do to make sure the players are prepped and prepared and are fully robust for the season, it is great. It's fantastic, but we can't legislate for the programme that we've been dealt.
Yeah. And to be fair, like you said there with Oldham, I think Boundary Park's cursed, because I support Bradford City, and I think last 3 times we played at Oldham, I think our manager's been sacked each time. So I think Oldham's a curse for us, but
yeah. So basically, if you're the Bradford manager, don't go to Boundary Park.
Yeah. I think McCall's been axed twice.
At Boundary Park?
Yeah. Unfortunately. Bless him. And so Jim on Twitter asks, how much is everyone looking forward to having fans back sort of in the club?
Yeah, massively. I mean, like I've said publicly in the past, probably not having fans there has made me a better manager, because I've been able to assess things better and become a better manager. But I feel now that I'm in a position that when the fans do come back, that I'll be able to deal with things better, deal with myself better, and we are, like I said before, it's the entertainment industry, and we're there to provide a service for the fans, and we can't wait to have fans back. And that buzz of Saturday, I imagine what the fans who had made the trip to Torquay on Saturday had been like, studying the stands on Saturday, and that's what football's all about. And being able to share that with the fans would have been fantastic on Saturday. And they're the days where you live for and you want to be involved in football. So yeah, I can't wait for the buzz and the roar of the fans, and winning away from home, and the home fans giving you a load of stick when you're going off, and I miss all that, and I'm looking forward to that coming back. Yeah,
and of course at home games, I think sort of during the first half you've sort of chosen to sit in the stand, haven't you? So when fans do come back, is that going to change the way you maybe approach things, and maybe with Joe Sargison as well? Because obviously I know he likes to sort of sit in the stand and sort of analyse every little detail, which he's very good at as well, isn't he? And do you think that'll sort of change up the way you guys approach things when fans do come back into the stand?
We'll have to see, but as I say here now, I intend to continue to stay in the stands for the first half. I think I see more up there. I mean, it's madness, isn't it? In this country, it's the only country in the world where the manager gets abused, for want of a better word, for not being on the touchline. In other countries, the manager will sit in the stands for the first half, assess. In other sports, rugby, for example, they don't even come down the touchline. So we have a microphone, a link to Millie on the touchline, so we can tell them anything we need to tell him in the first half. But I think you get a real feel for the game in the first half and in the stands, and I can see how teams are playing. I can see maybe little intricacies of how maybe players are playing against our players, how many players our players are playing against their players, which makes me a better manager at half time, which gives me more informed information to give to the players at half time. And I feel like I'm better at half time from being in the stands. So if it's working for me, then I need to continue to do that, regardless of what other people think. I also feel that I'm a very emotional manager, as everybody knows. And by being in the stands in the first half, it keeps your emotions in check, which means I haven't got into any nonsense on the sideline with fourth officials or opposition managers, which makes me a more controlled character come the second half, which means I can make subs better. So if it works for me, people have to appreciate that I'm doing the best for the football club. I'm not just doing it for Pete Wild, I'm doing it for the best of the football club, to make the football club better. So I intend, as I sit here now, to continue to do so. Whether come next season I push that through will depend, but that's how I feel at the moment. So I think I'm gonna continue to do it. So hopefully that gives you people. Some people won't agree with me. Some people will agree with me. Some people go, fair enough. At least he's openly vulnerable enough to admit that, and hopefully that comes across in a way which I'm trying to do the best for the football club.
Yeah, definitely sounds good. And next question is from Andy Roman, and he asks, who does the best brews at away venues, and do you have a rating system?
Brilliant. So Andy was the goalie coach at Oldham.
Were it? Right.
When we were the youth team at Oldham, when we go around the youth team grounds in the morning, we used to have a brewing spreadsheet because we had nothing better to do with our lives, obviously, as you can tell. So why Andy sent that in is because there was we'd go around the country and somebody say at away grounds, I'll make you a brew. Some of them were absolutely like they'd gone and got the dishwater out.
Yeah.
So as a joke, to pass the time on the minibus driving to games, we'd just go, listen, let's get a spreadsheet going of how bad some of the brews are at away games.
Yeah.
So that's where that's come from, Andy. And Andy, unfortunately, I don't drink brews before games now because the caffeine's no good for me ticker and no good for my anxiety levels. But great times, and so let's say we went to Notts County once, mate. And they made us a brew. I think he got it out of drain. It were horrendous. And I looking at Andy going, why has he made this?
Yeah.
So that's where that's come from there. Yeah. Great times. Wow. Well, I think if I remember rightly, I think Walsall away were the best brews, if I remember rightly.
Yeah.
A long time ago. Yeah, you can tell I've come a long way from making spreadsheets from brews, haven't I?
You get some bad ones though, don't you? I remember when before I joined Halifax, I worked for a team called Ecclesall United. Yeah, Northern Counties, and obviously I won't mention the away team we went to, but we went somewhere sort of half-time hospitality. I think they warmed the teas up in the kettle at like kick-off, mate. They were freezing. They left the tea bagging and everything. It was horrible.
Brilliant. Well, there's one for the media team. I want you to start a spreadsheet now, Rowett, of away games. How bad the brews are, and come back to me on it, mate.
Yeah, we're going to have to, especially now. And move on to the next question. It's from Stan McPartland, and he asks, Pete, did you get the idea of overlapping Paul playing centre-halves off Sheffield United because of how well Neil Baird and Tom Bradbury have done this season? And he said he loves seeing that and just sort of keep up the good work kind of thing. Good little message there as well, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, it's developed our 3-5-2. If you look at last season's 3-5-2, it was very much about don't get beat, be solid, stay in your shape, X, Y, and Z. But with the recruitment of probably more attacking, more footballing centre halves in them positions, it's allowed us to allow them to go beyond more. And we do a lot of work on security. So if that wide centre half goes, making sure one of our old midfielders offers that security and what we call a +1 mentality. So if they leave one up, we leave two back. If they leave two up, we leave three back. So we call it a +1 mentality. Which allows then our wide centre halves the freedom to go and overlap, because let's be honest, even when Sheffield United are doing it, nobody expects a centre half to be overlapping and crossing balls in. So you generally don't prepare for centre halves to overlap. So when they get that high in that lane, it creates so many overloads in wide areas, and it gives us an opportunity to get balls in the box. So in answer, yes, I loved the way Sheffield United play 3-5-2. Did I start out with that idea of overlapping centre halves? No. But as it evolved that way because of this +1 mentality, yes. And whoever that +1 is, it just happens to be at quite a lot at the moment that Bradders and Burnley seem to get in them areas, and long may that continue, because it like I say, I think this season, all right, results maybe not have gone sometimes the way we like them to do, but I think we're certainly great on the eye, and we're certainly a really good attacking threat. Whatever formation we play.
Yeah, definitely. And I remember when I spoke to Tom Bradbury, I think it was last month, when obviously we did our little interview. And one thing I spoke to Tom about was how good the centre-back partnerships have been. And I've never really looked at the game like this before until this season. But when you look at it, it's like everyone talks about strike partnerships. And, you know, I think everyone over-glorifies them, especially in the Premier League. You sort of give them nicknames and everything, don't you? Like SAS and stuff like that. Do you feel like centre-back partnerships are just as even strong as the strike partnership should be?
Massively, because you know who covers well, you know who heads the ball well, you know that if he goes up and heads that, he's generally going to win it. If he goes and presses that ball, he's going to do X, Y, and Z. And I think partnerships all over the pitch are massive. And with injuries, that's probably where sometimes, with injuries and COVID suspensions, when we've had games off, where partnerships don't really get going. And across the season, we've tried to, especially with your back three and your holding midfielders, I think them partnerships are massive, and wing back and wide centre half. The more partnerships you can develop over the pitch, the better, and the more they play together, the better understanding they get. and probably one of the reasons I'm always reticent to change my team, especially the middle of my pitch. So I think partnerships are hugely important all over the pitch, and the more they play together, the more they understand the little intricacies of each other, and the more they work better together. So, like you say, the three boys have made a great partnership since Nathan's been out. Now Nathan's back. That gives us more. You've got young John in there. You've got Jay Ben. So I think we've got a real array of sort of experience going through our back line, and it allows me. I mean, while Nathan's been out, I mean, on a Friday we will get the centre forwards that we're playing against on the Saturday, and Nathan will sit down with all the centre halves and discuss the strengths and weaknesses of the centre forwards that we're coming up against. And so he's still having that input and that and helping the players, and I think that, like I say, with that experience, with the partnerships, I think it really helps our back line, and it really helps us to try and make sure that we make the least mistakes in games.
Yeah, and just obviously a little quick one on one of the centre-backs, on Niall Maher. Obviously, since Nathan Clark's been out, Niall's had the captaincy. Have you been sort of impressed with how much of a leader Niall's obviously... We've obviously always known Niall is the leader, and then to get the captaincy, do you feel like he's definitely a captain in material?
Yeah, he's certainly a different captain to Nathan in the fact that he's not really as vocal. He's more of an organiser. He's more of a standard setter. He knows what the club's about. He's been here long enough to understand what the club wants and how the club works. So that gives people an insight on how things are done. I think he's certainly one for the future. But I think how he's played in the games, generally he's played and he's set an example by how he's played more than how he behaves on the pitch. And I think he was don't get me wrong, there's more experienced players in our team that probably could warrant it. I just felt like he knew the club better than anybody else at that point in time, and deserved the opportunity to show his credentials as a leader on the pitch. And I think he's done that. And I think he's been great around the place. I think he's been great with the players. He's been great about getting my messages across to the players when I've needed that doing. So I'm really pleased with how he's took to the role.
Yeah, brilliant. And move on to one of the next fan questions from Danny Jones. He asks, how hard has it been to motivate yourself and the boys to play with no fans in the ground?
Well, I think it's been strange, but as time's gone on, it's just become the norm. I think at the beginning it was weird, but it's just become the norm, and it is what it is. And the players have just got to, at the end of the day, it's their job. They get paid, so if they can't motivate themselves to turn out and play the game they love, I mean, they could be doing a job that they don't like. And so I think they've got a real special opportunity to do the job they love. And at the end of the day, they're getting paid, in some cases, a decent wage to fulfill what is their dream job. So they've got to try and remain motivated. They've got to try and find an inner strength. But what we have got this year is a real good mix of players of experience, young, youthful exuberance, that I think, because of our recruitment, has stood us in good stead, and the group's managed itself. When the levels have dropped in the group, the leadership group have asked to speak to the players on their own. They've drove come on, the levels have dropped, we need to go again. If ever's a problem, they manage their own dressing room, and that's what I really like, is that we've recruited the right people to manage their own dressing room, to manage themselves, to get the best out of them every Saturday, which you can't ask for more than that as a manager. The change room manages itself. Yeah,
brilliant. And Alistair Finn asks, do you think the number of injuries we've had this season is linked to anything, e.g. quick turnaround from last year, or type of surface, or is it just unfortunate? And he's also put, P.S. doing a great job, Pete, in not an easy situation.
Thank you, first and foremost. I think we answered this before in terms of the schedule, in terms of players like maybe not playing for March until this season. We've seen a lot of injuries that have not been impact injuries, been sort of, like, for example, Keane Spence having shot a goal in training, does his meniscus. Luke Summerfield does his ACL or partial ACL. nobody around him. Matt Stenson does his knee, nobody around him. So because of the rigors of the schedule, it's just putting undue load on the body that's unfortunately lads are breaking down. They're not injuries where we could say, right, they're muscle injuries because we're not doing enough hamstring work in the gym. They're not injuries where they're preventable. Yeah. 95% of the injuries have been unpreventable. Nathan Clark getting a scuff to the eye. There's nothing we can do about that. So they've just been all injuries that you think, well, whatever we'd have done as a staff and a department to prepare the bodies for them injuries, it doesn't matter. There's nothing we could have done about it, and that unfortunately is football. It's been, do you know what? In a perverse way, it's been great for me because I've never had to deal with an injury list so long. We're having to chop and change with the scheduling of games. So for me as a manager and learning, it's been a great learning curve for me to how to deal with these situations and how to remain sort of calm and composed within these situations.
Yeah, and obviously due to a number of injuries, we've had to sort of bring in various players in on loan. How do you feel like that's gone this season, where you get sort of I won't say obviously temporary. I can never say that word, by the way. Temporary players, because obviously you know you never know if they're going to stay the full season or go back and things like that. How's that like to plan with when you're looking at your squad and planning for where players are and things like that?
Well, it's been a good job I brought Joe Sargent in this year to help with training, because all I seem to do is walk around the training ground on my phone asking to borrow players. I know about every centre forward that's ever lived this season because of the amount of centre forwards we try to bring in on loan. But again, loans are part of the thing. In the summer, I was quite public in saying that I needed to be better in the loan market and I needed to be better at knowing young players in the 23s market. And one thing we did in January is we brought in a head of recruitment that's worked for the club before in Gareth McClelland. He's come back to the club and he's been a great help and assistance in helping me cover the market, in helping me make sure we know about lots of players, and our recruitment database has gone from that to that because of his input, which is fantastic. So I feel like it's been a constant slog in the loan market to replenish the group, and it's something that again has been, I think we've been successful with. I think 9 times out of 10 the loans we brought in have worked. There's been a couple that you could argue that were plateau, but I don't think any of them have been a disaster. And hopefully that's down to our better knowledge of recruitment and better knowledge of players and player development. So yes, again, another string that we wanted to be better at in the summer, and ideally I didn't want to do it that way, but it is what it is, and I've had to just roll with the punches in some respects.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously I think whilst we're on that topic, I think it might be nice to just wish, I think Gold or Mateo, obviously we had earlier on this season, he's joined Gloucester, I believe, and I think Javaro's gone to, is it Dinamo Bucharest?
Dinamo Bucharest, yeah.
So obviously best of luck to those two lads and on their moves.
From playing in the FA Trophy to the Europa League, that's not a bad jump, is it, mate?
Oh, yeah. Really good, yeah. And I think this is the last one. Yeah, last question. I think it's a nice one to end with as well. It's from Benjamin on Instagram, and he asks, just basically, what are your ambitions for the rest of the season?
Progression. I'm not going to sit here and say we are going to do X, Y, and Z, because I honestly can't tell you, because there's 22 games of football, 20 games of football to go. Yeah. So I just want progression. I want us to be better than we were last season on the pitch. I want to see a better standard of football. I want to see players develop, and I want to see us competitive in every game that we go out and play. So if we can progress, utopia is playoffs, win the league, obviously. But I just want to see us provide a standard of football that's good to watch, and we progress and we're competitive in every game we play. And if we are, we'll give ourselves a chance. If we're not, we won't. And I think that's the easiest way to put it. I keep a little tally, and it means nothing, but just to keep me sort of sane and in line. of how we did in the fixtures against these teams the previous year, just to see where we're up to and how we've progressed. And we're 8 points better off in these fixtures than last season. And in the teams that have come up, and I've sort of put like AFC Fylde at them and Harrogate and them, just to sort of give me some comparison and sort of keep me grounded on where I think we're at in terms of progression. And we're 8 points better off than in these fixtures last year. So I'm seeing subtle progression. I'm seeing us fitter, stronger than last year. I'm seeing a better brand of football. So long may that continue. Yeah,
that's all brilliant. I think that's everything then, Pete. And I think we've covered everything quite nicely until next time. I'm sure we'll have another Q&A session probably next month. And obviously, I think we'll have played a fair few more games to length. I think we've got quite a jam-packed next month, haven't we?
Maybe
is that hard to plan when you've got so many games back to back? Obviously, we've spoken about the schedule, and I think next month might be one of our busiest, if not the month after.
Well, we're basically Tuesday, Saturday now to the end of the season as of Tuesday night. It's going to be tough. We're going to need every player. Chuck into that COVID testing comes back in next week, which is going to cause its own riots. So, it's going to be a really, really head down sort of month. But if you speak to the players, they're happy because they don't want to train. They don't want to listen to me. They want to go and play football matches. So Tuesday, Saturday for the players is great for them. But it's going to take one almighty effort. And I think what you're going to see now is teams who can last the course, do all right, and teams who may be hanging on at the end because of squad size, maybe struggling as we get to the end of that. But let's hopefully we can stay free of injuries, get on some sort of run, and see where that takes us. And I only plan for the next game, so we're planning for Hartlepool Tuesday nights. I won't look at Wealdstone for next Wednesday morning, and I'll start planning for Wealdstone. And that's how we work. We don't get ahead of ourselves, and that's why I don't look at league tables or scores, because I can't affect them. All I can affect is how we behave against Hartlepool Tuesday night.
That's brilliant, Pete. I think that's everything. So big thank you for your time. So I'll let you get off then. Enjoy your day.
You too, mate. Stay safe, everybody. See you later.
You too. See you. Bye.